welcome, Faith to Feet family. So we are back with Simply Jerica, and I'm Dr. Anetta. So today we are doing a continuation of valuing your vows, and this portion of today's vows is for better or worse, for richer or for poorer. And woo, that sounds scary, didn't
It's a lot.
it? All right, so let me think. So last week we were doing part two of to have and to hold from this day forward. And just a reminder, we said that that was the groundwork for the rest of the vows. It was like our setup for discussing the rest of the vows. So if you have not caught either of those episodes, go back and catch them and get caught up and then come back to this episode. All right, so my friend Simply Jerica is here. We're gonna finish out today for richer or for poor, or excuse me, for better or for worse, for richer or for poor. All right, so let's just dive right in, Jerica. What? How do you feel about these vows? How are you feeling?
I think I need to break it down into two: how
Yeah.
I felt on that day and how I feel now, 15 years in.
Hmm.
On that day, for better or worse, for richer or poor, you think for better or worse. You kind of think bad days and you reflect on the things that you have gone through thus far.
Hmm.
But today, that's a lot.
Right.
That is a lot because, for better or worse, it is this person is going to change along the path, along the years of us being married. Can I take them when a circumstance changes them to their worst?
Hmm.
And also, for richer or poorer, you will go through financial challenges. And as we talked about the three do's, talking about the finances in advance, when those times hit, if you have a plan, you can get through them. But you really don't know what they will be until you encounter it. Let
Hmm.
me tell you what I'm talking about. So, not only did we start hitting that richer or poor on our after our second year anniversary, that was also going into a recession. Remember 2009, 2010, 2011.
Hmm.
And I won't speak about the other part because that's the other part of the vows. But we started to hit that richer or poor when we had to dive into our savings for the other parts of the vows we'll speak about. And we had to navigate that season. Not only was it holding on to those vows, but also walking through what the world called a recession and navigating that as well. So when you first hear those vows on that day, you think, oh, I can handle this. But you
Hmm.
don't really know what it'll be until you hit it.
Right. I totally agree because the weight of it, like you are still in bliss on
Exactly.
the day you getting ready to say I do. So, and for me, when I'm just thinking about it, I'm like, I don't even, I know I repeated that, but I don't even think I imagined in my mind what that really meant. And so when you say breaking it down for better or for worse, and then discuss for richer or for poor, that's the truth because I think about it today, 18 years in, almost next month. And I'm like, okay, for better or for worse, that means something totally different to me today than it did 15 years ago. Because, like I said, that day I was just like, man, I'm excited to, get married to my best friend, to, my ace. And so, for better or for worse, to me, when I think about it, I think of it as an exercise regimen.
Hmm.
And I feel like the agreement is we both want to be healthy. So it's just like when you say exercise has to be a part of my lifestyle. Otherwise, I won't, see the results or live out my life as best as I could if I had not incorporated that into my life. So I feel like it for better or for worse is the regimen that Corey and I have adopted for us to have a healthy marriage. Now we all know that the better part is when you're starting to work out, you starting that program and you're seeing those pounds come off. You seeing the BMI drop, the cholesterol and the blood pressure, A1C, all of that starting to become within normal limits. So that's for better or worse for me. And I also know that there are different areas, like the finances, all of that can be, you can go through it for better or for worse with that. But I will say, yeah, for better or for worse is because we are a military family. That is what can be a worse for me because we have built our relationship on like the connection, being face to face. Like, yeah. So that would be the worst for me.
So you're saying that distance for you is your worst.
Yes, distance is my worst.
I like that analogy where you said the exercise. Now, I can't say that because I don't feel that way about exercise. So, but I like the way you put that together and you brought out an important point that is different for everyone. And that's how you see it and that's how you approach it. And I can relate to the distance. And I do know the story. And you'll get to it with your Faith and Feet family later. But I think it's important for everybody to know the for better or worse, for richer or poor, it looks different for everyone. It's
Yeah.
never the same. The baseline and the foundation of it is the same, but the process of it, it won't look the same for you. It has not looked the same for you as it has looked for me or as it has looked for somebody else. And
Mhm.
that's one of the takeaways I want the audience to know. It looks different, but those basic foundational things are very important. And you'll hear them come up in every single episode. Communication. You said today, best friend. You have to have that friendship because also in that better and the worse, as we shift and as we grow along life, we also change. And I have to like this person when
Right.
those loving feelings go away as we are changing throughout these years. So that friendship is very important. And I can relate. My husband and I think I tell him everything, and in my mind, I feel like he does as well.
Mhm.
However, that's just how I feel, and I'm holding on to that.
Right,
but,
right, right.
but we have to have that foundation. And as long as you have that foundation, when those things hit for you and in your relationship, you will be able to navigate and work through them. When you listen to someone that gives you advice, it's the clues in it, it's not the exact steps
Mhm.
because our steps look different.
Wow, I like
Yeah.
that the clues is the
Mm-hmm.
clues in it, right? Yeah, because sometimes we are looking at relationships, and as I mentioned earlier, you may say that relationship is goals for you and your husband or your spouse, when actuality, you are supposed to be observing it for something different. And as you said, because no one's going to be, so transparent where they're telling you this, and this is happening in my marriage, but you do have to look for those clues so you can see if it will help you navigate in your relationship. But yeah, the friendship, that is definitely important. And if friendship, I will say, that is something that will, hold or sustain your relationship when you just said you don't like the person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me stop tripping. It's over with. I'm okay. I'm good. Because I want the friendship. And a lot of times
Right.
your friends give you feedback that you don't necessarily want to hear, but you know that they have your best interest at heart. So I do think that that is important in your relationship with your spouse. Can you all be friends, or do you want to be friends with your spouse? Because I don't know, some people like, child, I got my friends and I just want my spouse. And I mean, I don't know how that works, but I mean, and maybe you all can tell us, but this is what works for me.
Share that because I don't know how that works either. And I don't know if it's because we've been together so long, but I feel like we built our foundation on that friendship first because we spent a lot of time getting to know each other.
Mhm.
So leave it in the comments, community, if however it works for you all. We would like to know.
Right, right. So, okay, that's for better or for worse. All right, Jericho, what do you feel about for richer or for poor?
Ah, for richer or poorer. Now, we came in this thing on like the same level. We didn't have much. So we started out together. And we had navigated some things because we had been together so long before marriage. So on the day of saying those vows, I truly felt like, oh, we've touched that before. If it comes up again, we'll be able to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
Even with our premarital counseling, our counselor, who was a pastor, because that's what I believe in, he brought that up in our counseling and we shared with him some stories. And his feedback was, okay, you guys have had some experience with that. So when you get married, it won't be new.
Mm-hmm.
Lies.
She said all the lies.
Because the way it came was unexpected. And just to set up for the next episode, it came in the form of sickness. And
Mm-hmm.
we had to navigate that. And that's also why one of my dues in the advice in one of the previous episodes was to be having open conversation about finances. Because if we had not done that, and if we didn't have goals and prepared, we would not have been able to sustain when that sickness hit that affected our household. And we lost an income because he could not continue to bring in income for a significant amount of time. And then after the sickness, there was this recession. So that in sickness and in health, can I continue this path with this individual in this phase of our marriage? You
Mm-hmm.
can if you've had those open conversations in advance. If you have not and it just happens, you're in a moment of what do I do now? We've never talked about this before. Then it can make the communication a little bit harder and it can drive the two individuals away. So that for richer or poor, it's a lot in there because that's also in seasons. And I feel like just like the seasons of the weather come back around, also seasons of life. But I mentioned before clues. You should take the clues from the first time you're presented with that season and you navigate it and to prepare just in case this happens again. And then it's like, oh, we've done this before. This is what we're going to do. Let's go. So
Mm-hmm.
be prepared for that in sickness and in health. It will come for rich or for poor. Sorry
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah.
Those seasons will come. Now, for some, it's completely broke. And for some, it's just a loss of a job. No, I'm out. I can't stay here.
Mm-hmm.
Have those conversations in advance and know at some point, as long as you're walking out this marriage, this life together as one, it will happen.
Mm-hmm. It will happen. Yeah, that's really good. And I think you got us ready for the richer or for poor last episode when you kept telling us the importance of communicating about finances. We talked about specifically that it's important, communication is important, but communicating about those finances. And the build up to me was just as we've been talking about the friendship. There are some friends that, you have, can I travel with these friends? Can I try new food with or new restaurant with these friends? The friends that you can do, they on the list for I can travel out of the country with them. I can try a new restaurant with them. Like they won't change the environment by trying something new. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, building on that friendship is so important to prepare us for richer or for poor. Because you got friends. I have friends from high school that we were friends in high school. We went to college together. And even to this day, if we got back together, I know it would be where we would be picking up where we left off. Because it's like we knew where the for richer or for poor started. And so we were fine with the hot dogs then, even though I don't eat hot dogs now. But you know what I'm saying? So I think building that friendship and knowing that which friends can go on this journey with me. And then when you and your spouse are, he's choosing you and you're deciding if you want that forever, ever with him, make it on the basis of, is this a friend that I can do pretty much any and everything with? Can I be broke with this friend?
Mm-hmm.
Even think about an ice storm. Like, down south, we would have ice storms rather than snowstorms. And I remember in college one time we had an ice storm and we no one could go anywhere and we lost power. We were in college, we lost power. No, couldn't get any food. And like my sister and I, we were roommates, my twin sister, and so we had a good amount of food, but the food was running out. But I mean, the other ladies that were in my suite, I felt like we could do that snowstorm together. And my friends from home, like they were one of some of my suite mates as well. So when I think about marriage, it's like I am thinking of, for better or for worse or for richer or for poor, is this the friendship that I could do anything with? Like,
Anything.
I eat sugar bread with this friend. Can I? Even though I don't want sugar bread, I'm just saying, if it comes to that, can we do that together? Because really, it's all of the stress on top of, knowing that we don't have any money. So yeah, that friendship thing is going to be important for managing your season of for richer or for poor. And then I would also just say, Corey, for me, and we talked about this last week, the dues for just preparing to be married. Corey was a great manager of finances, period. Like I was able to observe that without before we got married. He still does. He still is a great manager when it comes to finances. And so that's something, if you are in the phase of dating or engagement, pay attention to how they do spend their money, and knowing when to spend that money, because money to me it's about timing. Even though I don't know who is a rapper who says it ain't tricking if you got it, but sometimes you don't have to just spend the money just because you got it, and you got to know when to say yes, this is a good time to make that purchase, or no. And so yeah, finances is about timing, and that's important, just as well as building the friendship to know, is this a person that I would want to be poor with? Even if is it a person that I would want to be rich with? Like, imagine, like,
Right.
it's important.
Yeah, very important. And you said about management of money and timing. That's another trait that we should look for in this person we are about to enter these vows with. How does this person manage money? We've had these conversations, but a thing, and I said honesty is one of my things. You
Mhm.
can say something, but what do you do? I'm looking at actions, and I can say the same for my husband. One is because we got together young, and you feel like, or you get that outside pressure. No matter how old you are, when you've been with one individual so long, you start to get the questions: when are you getting married? When are you getting married? And
Mhm.
as we were moving on through life, I would ask him, okay, we've had these conversations, we're both on the same page. And he shared something. I did not know I would share this today, but I am. He shared something, and it was sincere because we were sitting across from each other. He said, I will not marry you until I can completely take care of you. And right now, I can't. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, like I had to leave with that and let that process, because I had never heard it presented like that before. And it was sincere. I felt it. I had known him long enough. We had been together long enough for me to know he's serious. So when he proposed 6 months out, because we planned for like a year and 5 months from proposal to wedding date, 6 months out, all of a sudden, everything stopped outside of paying bills. I mean, dinners out, extra
Mhm.
outings to the movies, like all of the small things. So I asked, I was like, what's going on? Why are we not doing this and not doing that? His
Mhm.
response, I'm preparing for the wedding. I
Mhm.
know that,
Right.
but after, like, everything stopped. But that timing, which is, I didn't see that then, but him preparing himself to be the leader and the head of this family, he knew in this moment, I need to cut out all unnecessary to make sure we're okay. And I kid you not, after we got back from our honeymoon, he slid over our savings account. And I was like, thank you, Jesus, for the person you blessed me with,
Right.
because you gave him that vision to know. And all of that, fast forward 2 years later, was the building blocks for richer for poor that we hit right after our second anniversary.
Mm.
So that timing and money management is really, really big. That's a character trait we should look for.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That so you bring us to our next question then. So or my next question for my faith to feed family. So since we don't compromise our values, our vision, or our voices, what are some character traits that we should listen? I don't want to make this where we're looking for these character traits before we get married. Yeah, that's one thing. But listen, let's think about character development, personal development. Even
Mm.
when Jerica is 15 years in, I'm almost 18 years in. There are still character traits that I am developing this day, which I would call some fruits of the spirit. I am trying to make sure that I am able to bear these fruits of the spirit. So, what do you think are some important character traits that we could look for before as well as now, like making sure we are, showing that we are developing as an individual personally?
Before, I would say response. How does this individual respond to conflict? And how do they respond to joyous occasions? Because those responses drop little clues into how situations will be handled when you are like in the household together.
Mm-hmm.
So responses is one. And how they carry themselves. I like to say, and this is a old Southern saying, looking at a man, how does he treat his mother?
Mm-hmm.
Because how he upholds her, he's going to do the same for you. Most of the time, I have seen that to be true. So those are two I would say that are big before. And during, you're looking for that development. I won't say specifics because development looks different for everyone, but I'll say, is this person growing alongside me? Or are there the responses the same today as we are, just say 2, 3, 5 years in, as they were when we were just starting out? Because as the years go, as we get older, growth and wisdom should come with that as well. Are
Mm-hmm.
we doing the work to develop ourselves? Those responses, are we responding the same way now that we are 5 years in that we were on day one?
That's really good. That response, like how are we responding beforehand, as well as can we chart the growth of your response or
Mm-mm.
my response throughout this relationship? That's so important because, like, if I'm just gonna give an example. I'm not petty. I'm not, but I'm saying if that were a thing that I was dealing with before the marriage and if I still am 18 years in responding to stuff in such a petty manner, yeah, that's going to be important we're going to have a discussion about that.
Mm-hmm.
We do. We want to grow. We want to be able to chart that growth as well. So I think I would say before we're getting married, you do need to be able to decide if the person you're entering this covenant with is going to allow themselves to grow. Are they teachable or are they going to allow themselves to go through phases where they know I have to, learn from that lesson or mistake and not just say, brush it under the rug. Are they, teachable? Are they going to be flexible enough to know that growth has to take place in order for us to get from point A to point B? Regardless, growth has to take place, and how do you respond to that? To growth, that's important because sometimes you wake up and you're like, man, we've been married for 10 years or 5 years and this person looks totally different, or this not in a physical way, but it's just as if they are just different, than what you started off with, and they're really growing or they're really into their character development, personal development, and maybe you aren't as much, and you can become, have like this myopic type of vision where you're just, or tunnel vision, where you just focus on. Sometimes I think, I will hear a lot of men say, I got all of these responsibilities and, I got to take care of my family. And they are not focused on, some of the smaller character development or personal development traits that they could because of the responsibilities. So I think that that's something to make sure we're mindful of, that we all have responsibilities, and sometimes, others will bear the brunt of it. The men sometimes will bear the brunt of that, versus the women. But character development, personal development should be something that's important to both of us, and not just before we get married, but during the marriage.
During the marriage. I'll share something because I don't ever want the community to think we're just sitting here and speaking and giving advice and we never had to go through these things, because we
Right,
have.
right.
So, with that growth, I won't speak on him, I'll speak on me. There was one trait I had, and I really did not see it. And that was how I approached certain situations. And it was just this one type of situation. And we were about 7 years in. And during our normal end of the night, I call it bedroom talk after the house is quiet, we were speaking, and he brought that to my attention. And of course, naturally, what do? We get defensive. He was
Mhm.
like, no. And he started giving examples. And he shared, you have always responded that way. Why? So that showed to me I'm not developing in this area, and we are 7 years in. And
Mhm.
he's calling it out, not in a badgering,
Mhm.
downing on you type of way, but in a loving way.
Mhm.
Why hasn't this changed? What is preventing you from approaching this one situation different? And I had to step back and do the work. And it took some time, but I had to go back and I was like, you're right. I didn't see it. But that's another great thing about having a partner, someone who genuinely cares about you, who wants to see you grow. And when there's an area where that growth is not there, they don't badger you for it, or they don't come down on you for not growing. They share with you what they see in a loving way. And then it's up to you to take that on and say, okay, I see it. This is an area I need to work in. We need to be open to that feedback.
Oh, that's really good, Jerica.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I love that you brought that out, because I'm sure, just like me and the rest of my Faith to Feet audience, we do. We want to be able to take critiques. We want to be able to take constructive criticism as well as the feedback. But you also hit on, he did it in a lovingly way. So, sometimes I told you women can get a bad rap for our mouths. And I will say, as you have shared, transparently, that is one thing that I have been working on along the way, is the way I say things and my tone, because I am, I really do, or I am very honest. So I think that Corey has told me, several times, that you are pretty matter of fact. And so I think that that matter of fact has to kind of sometimes be tempered with a little more love, as you've shared before, because I will get straight to the point. And as I've said in the previous, or maybe the episode one, when I said, he definitely knows what I don't like. I probably share what I don't like before I share what I do, because I don't want you to waste your time. And I think, honestly, what has allowed him to give me grace is because that is one of my values, honesty. And it's not, I'm trying to hurt him when I say what I'm saying. It's, I'm just trying to be honest. And I have observed marriages where the woman just completely lost her voice. She couldn't share what it is that she liked or didn't like. And then her voice had been silenced for so long till she didn't even realize what it is that she likes. And so I think that the tone and the way I say things came from that observation of, man, not only will your voice get, a little weak, or sometimes you may miss some times when you should have spoke up for yourself, but it will go completely silent and you just will lose yourself. So it's just a way of saying, no, I'm not compromising my voice. And then, so yes, that is one of the areas that I am growing in. But I know that, as we said, it's important to be able to chart that growth. I know I can look back and say, I am not the way, I don't speak the way I used to speak day one of the marriage. And it's getting better and better and better. So,
And good. That was really good. Another trait we did not point out, maybe we did in episode 2, but someone who will value your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think
That's
you
another trait.
out. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
People value your opinion because yes, you brought it out episode 2 because I was talking about I need explanations.
Hmm. Yeah.
That was something. If I can speak for Corey, that was something that was like he was like was hard for him. But when we think about valuing your opinions, think about this, Jericho. So, and I'm just saying, just explain a little bit to me. What is it? Like I have a few questions. Just that's what I mean by explanation. But if you think about it, when we go to a doctor's office and they give us a drug to take, a prescription to take, on the label of that prescription it'll have the indications, the symptoms that's going to be that could, I mean, not the symptoms, the side effects that could have happened if you take this. It's really an explanation. And think
Hmm.
about, let's go back to the exercise regimen. When we start to incorporate nutrition and we say, man, I've plateaued and now I got to go dive deeper into nutrition and see how I can overcome this plateau, you start looking at the nutritional labels on the back of your foods and you're like, oh, it has this in it. Oh, or it has this amount of salt or this amount of sugar. I never looked at that before. That's the nutrition label on the back of your food. That's an explanation, y'all. You want it if you are serious about the healthiness of your relationship, of your marriage. So don't think if someone, oh, my necklace is off. If someone wants an explanation, it's not a slight against you saying that, you shouldn't have to provide this. Something's wrong with, like I said, think about all your food you eat. Think about the medicines you take, even the vitamins. There's an explanation on the back. So if that helps any of the guys that may be watching this, go ahead and just think about that a little bit. Take that in, swallow that pill a little bit.
We need that. We need that extra. So
Yes. Oh, okay, okay. So we were talking about our character traits. So you told us the response. What was the second one, Jericho? You said after the response, it was the growth, being able to.
the response and the growth. Yeah.
And then I said the honesty is that's going to be important. That honesty is going to be important. And you also said being able to value someone's opinion.
Hmm.
That's important. So if I could think of, do you have another trait, Jericho?
I don't right offhand because I think they develop over time. And that comes with being with someone and thinking about during that dating process, is this someone that I can stay with? Because the traits are different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
What I may value, someone else may not. And that works for them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the ones we have called out, that foundation is a good starting point. But
Mm-hmm.
also be open and know. And always be looking. Pay attention to not what someone says, but what they do. And they will show their traits to you. Then you have to decide, is this something I can deal with forever?
Mm-hmm. Forever.
Can I deal with it right now? Or can I deal with this forever? Because there's some things you can take right now. But that same thing, 5 years in, add on financial responsibilities, add in children, it may cause aggravation. You have to think about that.
Mm-hmm. You know what? That's so important. I guess I could end with this because you said when you said that, that made me think about you're talking about tolerance. Your
Mm-hmm.
because I was talking to my daughters the other day about tolerance, and one of them was just, sharing about they went to a volleyball camp a couple weekends ago. But anyway, and she was talking about pettiness, and then I was like, well, you just have to find your tribe. It's not that may not necessarily be your tribe, but I was totally understanding what she was saying because everybody has a tolerance level for certain things. And my other twin, like that didn't really seem to bother her. And I was like, I was explaining to them, you two just have a different level of tolerance for petty. So, I was telling Amaya, yours is like mom at a level 0, like it's 0 to 1, somewhere in between there. Once I see it's like, oh no, they're not grown. They're not grown. So deuces. And Anaya, she can handle a few things. She'll stay at 7 and let you, keep going. But anyway, it's that tolerance that you need to be able to say, say, truthfully tell yourself, again, it's about being honest. You need to say, man, my tolerance for A or B or C or D is at a level 2 or level 10 or whatever it is. And when you just said, can I add that, my tolerance level, and add on top of the tolerance level, the for poorer, for worse, the plateaus, the, the sickness, or we hadn't gotten to that yet, but all of those things on top of what I already truthfully know about myself. Because with that character development and that personal development, we are who we are. And there will be some things that we will completely drop that habit. And there will be some things, as we said, we'll be charting that growth and saying, okay, well, at least I don't cut people off when they speak, like I used to. And then there are some, and you just, like I said, you just completely drop that. But there are some things you're like, okay, I only did that thing twice today versus 10,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think all of it goes together. It's all helpful. So, and it's all personal and specific to you and your relationship, just like we said with that exercise plan or regimen that you decide to incorporate into your marriage. You say, we know healthy is the goal, so I can't just, eat and sleep and work. I got to add something that's going to contribute to that healthy marriage. So it would be up to everybody. When you go and see a fitness trainer or an instructor, they will start to evaluate or assess your level where you are at that moment. And then they will create a regimen specifically for you. Sometimes Corey and I will say, do we need to renegotiate our contract? Do we need to go back to the contract? Because there's some things like you didn't think about, at day one or year one.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this has to change in the contract. Like we don't want to be a free agent at all, but we need to renegotiate some things in the contract. So so yeah, that regimen and renegotiating the contract, all that's the same, guys. So if you guys are watching and you watch sports, it's like nobody's trying to be a free agent here, but you might have to renegotiate that contract.
Good. Right. Right. That was good. That was a good way to put that.
But sometimes, I mean, it's some things, Jerica, I know you can honestly say, okay, at first I just had to have this thing, or I didn't like this thing, and it just flipped. And you're like, man, I really do enjoy blah, blah, blah. And I didn't think I would, or I
Mm-hmm.
really hate this now. Like flowers. You may have wanted flowers all the time. And now you're like, man, I'm good on the flowers.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, Faith to Feet family. So we are ending our episode of valuing your vows for richer or for poor, for better or for worse. Next week, you will see a new upload where Jerica and I will be discussing in sickness and in health. You don't want to miss that one because she is really going to be giving us some transparent gems, and just because she's walked through that, both her and her husband. So I hope that you will log on to catch that episode next week. But Jerica, tell us all again. But wait a minute, before they can tell us where we can find you, I've purchased her Unveiled journal. You guys, you have to pick that journal up. It is a very nice journal, and I have several journals. I'm a journaler, if that's a word, and because I love to write. But you need to pick that journal up. If you don't have it, I'm telling you, you will surely be blessed by it. So, Jerica, where can we find you?
You can find me at my website, simplyjerica.me. And in the gallery of that website, there's a direct link to that journal on Amazon. You can also find me on Instagram at simplyjerica. And we also have something new coming to YouTube, which I will announce at the end of this series.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. So catch us again on the next episode. Peace.